All right, here we go. It's another episode of Them's Fighting Words. It's a martial arts podcast where clearly we brawl, but we brawl verbally. I'm Dominick Izzo. Thanks for joining here on the Izzo Wing Chun channel. I got Mike VanBeek, Coach Mike VanBeek, joining today. If you've ever seen some of our videos, Mike, God, it was 11 years ago you did a video with me. We have so much to talk about that, your background, everything. We're just going to get right into it like the bell just rang. Let's get a 30,000 foot view of who Mike VanBeek is, because there's a lot I have to say on who Mike VanBeek is. But first, I want to have you just give everybody the introduction for who you are, because you've got an extensive and crazy background in the martial arts and fight game.
Well, Dominick, thanks again for having me, man. It's good to be with you again. I get to cherish the opportunity to bounce with you here and there, and this is one of those times. And follow you along your growth, and it's nice to see you follow along mine as well. I have to be honest with you, there's like you said, a lot to unpack. More of a Forrest Gump life than a warrior's tale, perhaps, but for sure. I have a nice location. I love teaching. I teach martial arts. I specify counter-violence perspective, so it's a reality-based mixed martial arts. I came from a long line of martial arts and was introduced to the sports side of things early on, and so now I have a nice counter-violence package that we try to deliver to the public, because I think that's generally who needs it most, so I kind of came out of the learning curve into the teaching aspect with a dedication to teach people who were not martial artists and not athletes, and because those were who I saw as the victims. I don't see Dominick Izzo as a victim. I see him as a capable man. I see most martial arts people, they go to bed early and they get up and they train hard. And, I wasn't worried about those people. I'm worried about, your mom, my sister, these people in our lives who matter the most, who took their time out not to learn self-defense for whatever reason, but they care about people. We care about them. And so those were the people I saw as victims. And so I went forth with that kind of attitude, not to make I want an MMA fighter out of my gym. I really don't. Not at all. I don't want some MMA champion, a UFC champion out of I really don't. I'd rather have just regular, everyday people, and no victim, no crime, brother, So that's my mission, more so than the backstory we can get into on particular topics. But, I ask all the kids that I teach sometimes when I teach kids class, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And one of the kids asked me not too long ago, hey, coach, what did you want to do when you grow up? And I looked at him and I said, it took me a second and it hit me, because no one had ever asked me what I'm doing right now. So I live an amazing life that I probably don't deserve to be living, and I run a great business, and I get to meet and touch amazing people all the time in terms of making a difference in their lives and being a difference maker. And so that's kind of like what I do now. And martial arts has been a nice means by which that's taken place. But I've learned some really hardcore and very cold truths about martial arts that I was delusional about most of my life. And I think people who train with me see that on the forefront.
I'll say this off from the beginning and the get-go. There's a fake level of humility that people have in the martial arts, right? And you see it. I mean, and I think it's been one of the detriments in martial arts, where for some strange reason we think that, we have to be humble all the time, and this, that, and so many people try to fake it. I'm going to tell you, and this has been my perception of you for well over a decade. You're not fake with your humility. You are somebody who is extremely humble because you're extremely capable. The problem is with most guys who have that fake humility is they're not capable. If I meet them, I touch their hands, I don't go, oh, you just know immediately. When you and I met for the first time, because you're from the Chicago area, and the Chicago area, every guy that came up at the time that you did, they came to my school to under the guise and the flag of, hey, I want to learn your Wing Chun. And then it was a matter of day 1 or day 5, they were trying to teach the class what they knew. And it's, I never liked that. You were the only guy who came in and you're like, hey, listen, are you open? You didn't hide your agenda. Are you open to seeing what I do? Hell yeah. You came in, We had a very small class the day you came in. It was like 4 or 5 of us. We went over stuff that you did. You presented that you never shat on the way that I was teaching. And then later on, when everybody left and you and I had, we did a video and I touched hands with you. I'm like, oh, this guy totally fucking knows what he's doing. This guy, this is a dangerous man. So there's the thing. And a word you use all the time is violence. I don't think there's anybody that really studies violence more than you do. You get a lot of people online, right? Oh, I'm violence, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. No, I think based on your background, how you lived your life, violence. Do you think that having that real, genuine state of exposure to that has made you as humble as you are? Because you never go in anything to pull one over on somebody. You've never gone in to ever try to steal other people's thunder, their students, anything. You just go in, you offer friendship off the bat. Why is that? Why, especially from the Chicago area, with a group of guys you came up with who are all under the similar flag, why are you seemingly the only one who just never wanted to just shit on everybody else? And your character is strong. You're not fake.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I appreciate that, because that's a genuine compliment. It's not like, oh, he's tough, he's strong, he's this. No, and that's a compliment that I appreciate more than any other one. So thank you for that. I think my humility comes from my father left as a child. It was my first memory. So I never had somebody there to teach me to stand up for myself. Now, this sounds like a backwards way of being humble, and it really is. I wish I had a better, a kind of a story that made for a script, but it doesn't. It actually worked opposite. It took me a long time to learn to stand up for myself. Although I could learn to fight, fighting and standing up for yourself are different things. And you don't know this until you know it. And when you know it, you go, oh, shit. So wait, fighting isn't enough. I have to actually stand up for myself. And what does that entail? And it took me years to find that out. And I found it out just by small steps, how to stand up for myself and have a voice and be heard. And I was raised in different environments and under different structures. Single mother, father, single mother, then a stepdad, and then living in different houses. And so there was always it was like this, Dominick. Keep your mouth shut and your ears open, and that's how you survive. Pay attention, shut your mouth and listen. Boy, go get your food. Boy, do this, do that. Yes, this is what you do. I mean, it's my sister and my mom. And we got kicked out of a house because we had too many black people living with us in the house. And so who let us stay with us? The black people. And so those things made me keep my mouth shut. And I remember somebody telling me, Mike, man, if I knew what you knew, I'd be an asshole. And I was like, well, man, how do you know I'm not an asshole in my own way? And I am in my own way. I'm an asshole, I'm sure. Absolutely. Because, now when you stand up for yourself, the swing goes the other way. And now you're an asshole to everybody, even when they ask you what time it is. So it takes a while to get a good balance of humility and confidence. It's that yin and yang, that how much hope, how much hammer, how much carrot, how much stick. And, I knew that started with me. And so, I had to if I wanted to believe in myself to achieve something, I had to do it with a certain amount of humility, because I had to learn, and I had to say, this is what I don't know. And if I'm going to say I want to learn something, I have to be willing to say I don't know this thing. And I tell you what, brother, when you're on the streets, I don't give a damn what you think you know. In a second, you better be humble, vigilant. Statute on my arm, be sober, be vigilant, for the devil stalks you like a lion stalks its prey. And so does the next knockout. And so I don't care what you know or what SEAL team you trained with or whoever. I don't give a shit. In a second, we could be gone. And so that's what keeps me humble, brother.
I want to talk about your background it's going to be like pulling teeth with you, because even privately, you don't talk shit about anybody. You just don't. You never have. And again, the era that we grew up in the Chicago area with martial arts, it's just a pissing contest all the time, and you've never done that. I want to talk about the background. You came from, I don't know if it was first, second, where it was, it was a PFS, right? Paul Vunak, and you were one of his elite students who just carried on a torch, and you watched you just blaze your own way, you became your own person. I want to talk about that mentality, because I did a video a while ago. Everyone knows I'm a very big Jeet Kune Do critic, and there's something I've never met Vunak. I talked to an assistant of his who wanted to do a podcast, but I guess he's not feeling well. He exemplified, in my opinion, at that time, what JKD looked like, and I'm not a big fan of JKD. And the philosophy was right, and it's violence. And then there's you and a couple others that came out of that his teaching who were able to just not only do what he did, but then go to your next level. Can you talk about what that experience was like? And then here's a couple reasons why. I came from a very second narcissistic teacher, and I'm not saying that Paul is. I don't know anything about him. But what I'm saying is when you try to excel, the teacher that I experienced always kept us down. So we couldn't excel. And then if you did excel, you felt guilty. And then if you go your own way, you feel guilty. How did Mike VanBeek become Mike VanBeek with one of the biggest guys out there casting a shadow? You broke out of the shadow and you exploded, dude.
Yeah, well, one of the other PFS guys out there had said to me one time, Mike, I'd rather have you out than, say, Paul. And I asked him why, and he had said, for his particular reasons, but it was the taste and the personality. It was new. It was more intensive. It was more content. It was just a brighter version. And I like to think about it. So I'm going to give you a humble version, and I'll give you a practical version. The humble version is the same as I'm going to be better than my father, as my father was better than his father. And if my father does not wish that I am better than him, then he is no father. Mm-hmm. Yes? Mm-hmm. So this is the same, whether Paul put it on himself or he didn't put it on himself, that he wished me to be better than him. And so that's the story I'll go with, because yep, because that's the way it works. And so in separating from that organization, as well as making a separation from Paul as a friend and as a mentor, as a confidant, doesn't take away from the fact of what I think about him as an instructor or as a martial arts practitioner, or what he has done for the martial arts community from the beginning of the 80s till now. I mean, probably up until 2015, he was a probably relevant person, but and I say that with all due respect. It's just practical. It's just a matter of fact. It's not, I don't hate on the guy. And so I think that separating from him was at the time probably the best thing for me. Yes. Not because he was any other thing, that it's just that time. It's like, boy, move out. Move out on your own. This is the JKD way. You have enough knowledge, go. Don't sit here under me. Don't be me. And I think there's a lot of people in the martial arts community who struggle. I want to be Bruce Lee. Why do you want to be Bruce Lee? Bruce Lee was Bruce Lee. Be you. And that's why I was kind of looked at in the Jeet Kune Do community as not a Jeet Kune Do person. If you ask a lot of people on those pages, they don't consider me a JKD guy, because I don't want to be Bruce Lee. I don't want to be Paul Vunak. Paul Vunak did a good job of being Paul Vunak. I'm going to try to do a job I can be in me. And me was different because the thing that made me different was my experience. I had cage fighting experience, yes. Paul told me to go do Wing Chun. I met you. Paul told me to do cage fighting. Paul told me to do this. Paul was a great teacher. He knew what was right for his students, for his era. And in that era, you put everything in terms of arts. Wing Chun, Savat, Panantukan, Pananjakan. Now we put things more of a practical matter. Kick him. Should I use Thai boxing or punch? I don't care. Just kick him. And so that era, not him per se, but that era. Now there's another question of why didn't he kind of glide along, and change some of the way he trained. But coming out of that, I saw some problems. The problems were formerly in terms of Jeet Kune Do. The problem is you can't fight everybody in the right league just because Bruce Lee did. The data doesn't work. The data doesn't work. And so one of the things that I did is I stopped looking at martial arts as this subject of loyal, I don't know, where I have to do it just because Paul says I have to do it. Why can't I have a question? I can ask questions? No question. Listen, I face 3 dudes in the street that don't look nothing like this. I got a question, and so those questions got me looked at as some kind of way, I imagine. But And it's like, no, I don't think trapping works. And here's why, because violence doesn't block. Well, what do you mean by, well, no, you're doing it because your teacher told you to do it. But if you meant to hurt somebody who was raping your wife, I guarantee you're sure the fuck not blocking some center line punch. Fuck no, your only goal is to hurt this person, period. Now, in any violent attack, to counter violence, I learned from military people, the number one priority is violence of action. Everything else that doesn't acquire that is either untrained right or not for that. Then move along, move along, move along. And that's what I spent a lot of time doing with a lot of the leaving that era, was taking my street life, taking my cage life, security, all the things that I had done, and asking myself, well, let's fight it and see. Let's fight it and see. Let's pressure test it. Let's test this. Let's find out how to align the differences between martial arts, street fighting, sports, the art. What does all this mean? Should I just be a combative guy who hammer fists, or should I box and learn this lifelong boxing skill? What does that look like? And so I went on that instead of just accepting, well, Bruce said to G-Tech, so I should G-Tech. Well, how come? I don't know. Bruce just said to do it. I shouldn't fall into that category. You know, if it wasn't going to save my life, why am I wasting my time with it?
You went your own path. You years ago, you had said, you know, I said, hey, you do JKD? You're like, no, I don't do JKD. You know, you were doing counter violence training. And I want to talk about the mindset to break away, because most of us do, right? And at one time, you know, I did. You have to fly under the flag and the blanket of banner of your school. Why are so many guys afraid to go out their own way? Is it judgment? Is it we just don't know what we're doing? Maybe is it a lack of people who have true real world experience or violence? Does that what makes you different, right? I will not put myself in the category of you are. I worked in 4 a.m. bars. I was a cop, and I'm a short guy with a hot head. Love to get in fights, this and that. I wrestled in high school. What college I went to, coached Wing Chun, all this crap. I got a big mouth. Fighting is fighting, but I didn't fight to survive. So when you have people who are either also beneath me, who are like, oh yeah, you know, I fight. It's like, what's a fight to you? You got pushed? I keep coming back to this. You don't know fighting, you know violence. Did that separate you from when it just left the rest of us behind?
Yeah, in terms of business, so you're right about that. There's 2 points there. The knowing violence and then the perpetuation of working through the dream of opening up a business and working in that space. And you know, why do so many people not pull away? Why do they do their own thing? And what you see is people dare. They do dare to be different. But most people are egoic. So on the business end of things, people are egoic in the sense of I would. You remember that show Bar Rescue, Dominic?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With Taft, yeah. I did this thing like kind of a martial arts thing, and I would go to these Jeet Kune Do schools, and this guy would have these cards, and it would say, I don't know, okay, science Jeet Kune Do, and there's always some kind of a way to use language to decorate it. And I get it. You want to impress me with some new word that you're going to use around Jeet Kune Do that's going to make you unique somehow. Everything you're doing tells me that it's about you and not about the people that you train. So you're more interested in getting the accolades from being known as a Jeet Kune Do guy or this, that, or the third, but you're not interested in helping people? What is your priority? And so I would see this in the business end of people. And so part of the failure lies in the fact that they're trying to be known, not make a difference. They're not, I don't know what their goal is, to get likes, to get this. But if they just meant to help people, it would work out for them. Instead of saying, hey, let me show people this new technique that nobody else knows because I've got, 7 cut-off proofs of purchase from the cereal box that I sent in, and they sent me a Bruce Lee secret book or some shit. It's just, there's some things that really work my nerves, and that kind of stuff is really, really kind of gets to me. I got grown-ass men who say they can fight, lying to little kids and their families just to make a quick buck while they're teaching them a bunch of bullshit. Man, so I see that. Now, the other side of that is that, man, people are afraid to fail. I worked all this. I've been in martial arts my whole life. I'm going to open up a business. 6 months later, you're in fucking debt and closing the doors because nobody cares more than you do. the unfortunate truth. And so you have to get out of the selfishness of the Mr. Martial Arts guy and go, hey, in terms of business, what is it the parents are looking for? And stop telling yourself what people should like about you and let them tell you what they need. This is the best way to do business in this context. And the second part of your question was about understanding violence. And this was not it was a choice of mine because I was a drug addict, but it was a property of where I grew up in the Heights, in Chicago Heights, Illinois. I was a lot of times the only white kid where I'm from. And so I was the only, if I was beaten up, it's because I was a minority. And I experienced fear to the degree that I didn't understand it before. And I can't measure violence by offense as I can measure it by fear on the defense. So if I get into the cage with you, Dominick, I'm not afraid. I'm concerned for my welfare, which is why I train, because I don't want to get my ass kicked, right? But that concern is not fear, right? When you wake up because I just hit you over the head with something and I'm throwing your wife across the room and you hear your kid screaming, this is not the same. When someone hits your car from behind, gets out, and he has a bat in his hand, and your kid's in the back crying, this is not the same. This is not the same. And people's understanding are thinking, I'm a cage fighter, I'm violent. I know that it feels that way. I know that intensity of that fight makes you feel that way. But it's because of the fear that's on the other side that you'll never experience. Is that why that can't be violence? Because there's no risk there. Right? It can't be violence without the risk. What's the risk? You'll lose your life. Your wife will be raped. Your child will be kidnapped and sold. This is violence, man. This idea. I mean, you're a police officer. You sit in an information cycle where you hear the most tawdry, gross, nasty, to the most evil experiences perpetrated by man and his ilk. Why would you think that you're going to do this move kind of thing? You know, it's the fear that represents violence that storms into your house, that is intrusive into your life, that this training is supposed to give you that hope that while I'm in my white and my relaxed boxers, clicking the channel, someone storms my door, I will have enough skill, accompanied with enough will, to address this situation in a manner that will protect the people behind me in this house. And that is violence. When you stand up against that, that's courageous because it's uncertain. When you're in the cage, it's certain that you will be okay. You will not die. There's people here, look out for you. That guy's not trying to put his thumb in your eyes, bite you, hit you in the nuts. He's not trying to do any of that. And so there's no fear there. I mean, it takes some bravery because he wants to beat me up, but it's not the same. And so to measure the experience and understanding of violence is to be in touch with the risk versus reward ratio into the negative, right? If the risk is I lose, but I still got $5,000, but if I win, I get the belt and $50,000. There's no real risk there. I still come out winning. But if I don't defend this, I lose my wife, and the rest of my life will be spent in therapy and in court. And so I think that lies in the understanding the difference, is understanding what it means to be a victim of violence, as well as someone who's perpetrated on other people, you know? And so part of my goal was to teach people, you know, my deal with God was that he would save me from this life of addiction, and I would in turn teach people what I was a part of so that they would be more knowledgeable versus I'm going to punch you and you're going to do this and this is going to happen. That's not how it happens. So the difference in focus is we focus on what the criminal is going to do, not what the martial arts is going to do. The martial arts guy might block center. He may pull guard. That's not what that guy's going to do. He don't want to go to jail. He's not going to pull you in his guard. He's going to stomp on your fucking head.
Can men today, well, let's focus on, well, it's not just men, but men and women, can anybody develop that without having to grow up in that type of environment? I mean, yeah, you know, it's illegal to go and, I don't know, like actively look out for that kind of crap and whatnot. But how do people develop that skill set, especially people who you see MMA all the time, and what you just described is a complete safe sport. And it's not without injury, but you're taught what you just spoke about. That comes with real world experience that everybody's, oh, I'm a street fighter. I've never been beaten in a street fight. And you know, that's just not true. But how do we develop that attribute? What's that?
I love hearing those stories. I don't hear them too much, you know, but I used to hear them in the 90s all the time we're coming up. You'd meet some guy, I'd be working in a bar like you, and you hear some guy, oh, that guy Billy over there, he's never lost a fight. He's been in 50 fights. He's never lost a fight. And I'm like, you really believe that shit? Like, yeah, that's what he said. And you're like, really, who'd you fight? You didn't fight nobody if you won 50 fights. What kind of asshole gets into 50 fights? What kind of asshole do you got to be to get into 50 fights? Anyway, how to develop that skill set without being a victim? This was the question, correct?
Yeah. How do we, can we develop that in today's society?
Let me give you the caveat to what I just said. The sport is not the street. And the relationship is the question was about understanding the difference between violence and martial arts. And that falls into the risk category. So when you know what it's like to feel that if you make the wrong move, you could lose your life. One guy had a gun to my head and asked me for my car. I was trying to buy crack cocaine. He put a gun to my head. I was driving a 76 Nova that wasn't even mine. And I'm in the hood, brother. You know what I mean? I'm in East Chicago Heights. And he puts the gun. And there's a risk versus reward ratio at that moment, right? I've been in the cage before this. I didn't feel that same fear. It was nervousness I felt. And so in saying that, I'm not saying that sports doesn't have the value it does. As a matter of fact, the caveat here is asking someone to acquire the skill set by which to make and understand the difference requires a program of training that reflects that. And if you wanted to lose weight, you would follow a program. If you wanted to save money, you'd follow a program. I think you do some marketing stuff that involves people following a program. And if you want to stay sober, you follow a program. And well, if you want to get better at anything, you follow a program. And so my program for that is sport first. Sport is self-preservation. Art is self-perfection. When you train self-perfection like the sport and sport like self-perfection, I'll give you an example. You're a Wing Chun guy. In Wing Chun, at the very beginning, it's very... I'll give you, when I first met it, it was hard, but it wasn't hard. You know what I mean? They were banging, they were trapping, but when a person who does Kung Fu can do it with the same intensity like a boxer hits you with, then you get it. But it takes about 20, 30 years to get that, right?
100%.
Right. So when you have a soft style, it takes at the end of their path, they're hard. You take a boxer who's banging stuff his whole life, and at the end, it's a sweet science, isn't it? It's float like a butterfly, baby. Boom, he's moving, he's flowing. So at the beginning it was, and so in the sport of things, this is self-preservation. Will is something we'll set aside for right now. Skill is divided up into two pieces, self-preservation and self-perfection. Self-preservation would be wrestling, boxing, judo, Thai boxing. Self-perfection would be Wing Chun, Aikido, Tai Chi, Panajachman. Yes, Kali, things of this nature that were more a matter of technical proficiency than they were about endurance, conditioning, or stamina. The sport gives us that. It gives us the relative conditioning of someone trying to hit us and us becoming agile and mobile on our feet, gets the blood going. So what I have found is in a couple different camps, is that the artists who don't like to get conditioned in endurance and do road work and go out there, regardless of age. Your own line of 64-year-old people who run and do the same conditioning workout we do here, 60, 50, 60s, we don't have a problem with that. You only do to the level of your capabilities. So your box to your level of your capabilities. Now, once you box, martial arts is there to teach you how to cheat the sport. So MMA gave all the wannabe alpha males, we're going to join football and headbutt lockers. Well, now you have something else to do. Now you can do MMA. So traditionally, and you'll appreciate this, martial arts, I think Tim Kennedy was talking about this. They are generally taken up by geeks like Dungeons and Dragons dudes. We did Kung Fu and stuff like that. We were not wannabe alphas, nothing like that. And so I wanted to do martial arts so I could not have to fight, because fighting may expose my inner fragilities and my inability to handle things. So if I'll do martial arts and do this move, I won't have to fight, see? And I think what people isn't a matter of either or, do I do the art or do I do the sport? It's a matter of how much of which, because the sport gets you comfortable with being uncomfortable. Somebody hitting you in the face, not telling you how to respond, you know? And that's what we tell our kids. How do you teach someone to keep their hands up? Hit them in the face. They'll figure it out. Brunak was like that with the knife. You want to learn footwork? Here, I'm going to have a knife. I'm going to cut you. Don't let me cut you. There you go. Spent 5 minutes doing that, you know? And so there were some things that you can do to get people that way. But the first thing to do is to employ the sport. Get someone used to banging and hitting. Martial arts don't like doing the sport because it takes too much endurance and they may get hit and their technique may not work. And they built their value structure on this always working and not looking bad. And so on the other hand, MMA guys don't want to do like situational combatives. Like, I'm between me and the car. We don't have a ref. There's not us moving around. They don't like to do the weapon stuff. They don't like to do the more self-perfection thing that takes a high level of coordination and, you know, mass attack, weapons on the ground. These are a whole different thing that MMA people don't want to do. They just want to know that they have some kind of fifth level omoplata that they can do from a rear naked something or other. And they're okay with that. And they would rather roll around until they get that than just pick a knife out and stick the guy. So getting someone to do that is first getting someone in the sport so they feel physically capable and able to not get hit, throw a punch, and understand to clinch the ground, kickboxing. Then show them martial arts in a manner that will cheat the fight, right? Not in replace of. But if he's boxing, how would I beat a boxer? But I had to learn how to beat a boxer so I wouldn't be sold. I had to learn how to box so it wouldn't be sold on. When the guy punches and he leaves his arms out there, which will never happen. So you have to use what you're going to do in martial arts against someone at a blue belt level, MMA level. And so there's no better way to do that than to learn how to do that. So come up to an average level, kicking, punching, and that should take you about no longer than 3 to 4 months. And then spend the rest of the year learning how to cheat that against someone trying to hurt you like an average MMA fighter. And then put it, stage 3, put it in a context like if we put up a fake town. Right? Like a play. What does your life look like? And let's put that there. You have a kid? Cool. Right? So what we did is we developed a process. We put them through that process, sport, then the art or the street or the cheat, however you want to look at it. And so it's not like I'm not doing it against a punch. I'm just doing it against the punch of an MMA fighter, not some drunk dude from the 70s and some haymaker bullshit. That's not how people fight. And if it is, then stop hanging out at the bar at 2 a.m. beating up drunks. You know, make the violence you're defending yourself against at least contextually relevant to your life. And if you're being honest, it is the context in which you live your life that determines the content by which what you will need to defend it. If you're a female, you'll be more worried about a man between your legs than if you're a guy, right? If you're on the ground, right? So I'm in a reality situation. No one's trying to put me between my legs. They're definitely trying to rape a woman that way. So there's certain things that drive what you would need, your age, your gender. All these things drive the context of what you will need, the content of martial arts that you would need. So instead of taking 40, 50 years, you can't isolate it down to a mainstream course and give someone a course of, say, 15 to 30 hours of privates for their life, as well as enter into a course that gives you some stamina, some conditioning, knowing how to move, and then learn how to cheat by doing, whether it's trapping or destructions or some kind of straight blast or whatever, but you're doing it against someone with an athletic base that represents something you would actually face, not somebody trying to do a wrist lock on you or something of that nature. So the process can be long and arduous, or it can be short and direct to the individual's needs, but it's a process worth taking.
Let's talk about that for a second, because as a teacher, I want to know the kind of student that walks through your door. You're not like everybody else. Let's look at other martial artists out there. In the Wing Chun world, it's always, and I say it should be criminal. You get the teachers always out there condemning people who lift weights, right? Having muscle will slow you down, which we know is a complete falsehood. And I can't tell you how many guys have accused me from muscling them when I go, well, if I have it, why would I not use it? You're close friends with the greatest powerlifter in history, Ed Cohen. I want to talk about when guys walk in. So let me finish my point because I'll get ahead of myself. I've always said that they do that because this way, if I stop lifting weights and I stop building a physical attribute, I can never improve on a teacher who may be bigger, stronger, faster than me. So why would that teacher want me getting stronger and having an edge? So I always thought that, man, we have a lie in Wing Chun. You don't want to build muscle because that's how you keep your students always students. Your philosophy, you just went through a lot of it with the concept of fitness. But talk about your students when they walk through the door. You know, they're not. Are they expecting hey, what's my belt ranking? When's testing? And then when they have, you know, Coach VanBeek talks about the reality and the language that you use, which is the reality of fighting. Does it flip a switch in people and they go, oh, this is whoa? And then what kind of a person comes in versus what do they become training with you?
Well, that's a pretty good question. And that goes to like who is looking for it and why. And that's a good thing you'd want to put your finger on the pulse of, is who wants your business and how can I help them the best. And the kids and adults are different. You know, kids, teens, their parents see the truth. Like, hey, I'm really not interested in the whole belt thing because I went through that, didn't work for me. And I see my neighbor's kid, he just got jumping 10 grand this year and he didn't get shit. He can't even fight, you know? So they definitely know the counter violence thing in the focus. It's not a traditional name. It's not that. So the parents usually bring the kids in because, like I said, there's always I want them to stand up because I raised a nice kid. I just didn't raise a kid. You know, we hear Jordan Peterson speak on that. You have to be capable. And so they're worried that the children isn't capable. So they bring them to me because they've heard this or they've heard that, or they just want to stop in. And so for the teens, and I will tell you that we have a lot of autistic kids here. We have a lot of not in shape kids and teens. And that's another reason that the parents are pushing the child to get into shape and to do some things because they're getting bullied. They're getting bullied because the parent said to me the other day, well, it's my fault, you see, because I thought I was helping my kid by letting me whatever they want. Now my kid's overweight and being made fun of. And I figure I did all that. So the least I can do is put him in martial arts and help maybe undo some of the things I had done. And so I was really happy to hear that. And so we have people who can't even do a somersault. We have people who can't, but it is that. And it is that kind of phrase, you know, this is hard work. This is not easy. But there is definitely a sense of, you know, I've been here for about 6 years, and now that I've been here, there's enough people, you know, Dominic, who moved up, who now, not just Coach Mike telling you that, who they come in and they see it. And the adults, and they like the fellowship. Kids like the other kids, and it's nice. I have a couple coaches. Yes, I'm the bad cop, and there's other good cops, but I push them, constantly push them. And I think that they respect and appreciate that. So they come to me, the general students, the kids and the teens come to me for that self-esteem, self-worth, self-value. And there's this part that says, well, you know, Coach, I said, well, did you stand up for yourself? Well, if I could, I would. Okay, well, let's work on that skill set. And so we have kids of all different shapes and sizes pulling that stuff off. And that's the greatest love for me, that you weren't restricted how you came in here. It wasn't a restriction. But now that you learn to do it, even though you're not in the best shape, it's driven you to lose that weight. It wasn't another failed expectation. And so I've seen a lot of young girls and a lot of young kids come through a lot of personal turmoil through that. That's a personal gratification for me, even though they just came in to throw some punches. For the adults, people definitely want that. They know that something ain't right in this world. They know that it's me and my family. And so, Mike, you got some gun stuff. You got some nice stuff. Let's go. Because I'm saving food and stuff. It's no longer, well, if the guy at the liquor store or at the local convenience store is holding me up, what? Different to me and the feedback that I get. And whether it's homeschool parents or whether it's just regular people going, man, something's not right. And I'd rather, you know, victory favors the prepared. And so cops might not show up in 3 minutes or less. It might take 30 minutes or more, depending upon if they're protecting their family. And that depends upon a lot of things. And I think once they realize once people lost their shit over toilet paper, that they had bigger fish to fry. And so I think people's not just, hey, I want to learn how to fight and get in shape, but they're like, hey, I may actually have to protect myself from violence. And there may be more to this than I understand. So let me go out there and get into what I don't know and let somebody else tell me what I need. And so I really appreciate both ends of that.
I got to ask, I've always wondered this one. I want to go back to Ed Cohen for a second. For those who don't know, when I grew up, he was in all the muscle and fitness magazines as a power lifter. And, you know, he was probably one of the only power lifters that was featured in it. Heaviest squat. I mean, the guy is just still, he's in his late 50s at this point, I think. And he's just he's the man. you take a guy from that discipline, and I'll never forget the day I saw some videos with him training with him. Like, wait a second. How the fuck did you get a guy who is the powerlifter of powerlifters to look at what you're doing and go, okay, I want to train with you? What do you think what that to me sells? I don't think people understand when you have the elite of their craft looking to go to something else and then picking that instructor, that says a ton about that. What do you think it was that got him to go, all right, I want to train with you? I've always wondered that.
You always ask me, you asked me earlier about, what set me aside is because, once in a while you have to take a dare. You have to go, okay, listen, at the time I was coming off a screaming crack cocaine addiction, of any drug at that point, actually. And a friend of mine I was training lifted at this place called Quad's Gym in the south side of Chicago. It's in Cal City, south suburb. And it's world renowned for its lifting. And what did I know about lifting? Whatever, man, let's go. Hey, this guy's Eddie Cohen. Who? Okay, Eddie Cohen. He lives here. So my guy says, well, you got a fight coming up. I'm going to pay my guy. I said, I don't need some strength training guy to train me. I'm fine, He said, no, this guy's one of the best, man. You should. And so I went there, and I was actually training some other people in there because Quads was a gym that had a martial arts, and a guy named Rich Lamro. He used to teach out of there. He's a big Kali guy. You might have heard of him. He's a Danny guy. He was Rich, one of the first ones in this area. So it was known for martial arts. Hickson Gracie had been there. And so I had trained some guys, and I think part of it was because I wasn't afraid. I mean, there's guys who bench 500 pounds just walking around, and I'm grabbing these guys and moving them around. Dominic, I'm pushing these guys and moving them. And, I'll be honest with you, to walk into a powerhouse gym, it's a heavy metal powerhouse. These are power lifters, right? Quad's Gym was the shit. And guys in there are benching 500 plus pounds. And then I'm going, come here, you want to wrestle? Mm-hmm. And they're like, I'm gonna smash this motherfucker. So I ain't gonna lie to you. I was afraid. I was scared, but I knew that this is one of those times. I'm either gonna make my mark or I'm gonna get carried out with the trash. This is the risk. This is the risk versus reward ratio that violence taught me to be comfortable with in life, right? That if I was going to be okay walking through the row houses on the south side of on Chicago's west side at 4 a.m, looking for crack cocaine, that I'll be fine here at Quad's Gym. And so that's the attitude of the leverage that I took with me. And so I went to Quad's Gym with that attitude, and everybody was really nice. And I said to Eddie, I heard you're the world's strongest man. He said, that's what they tell me. And
he is humble like that too.
Yeah, he is. He's Southside humble like that too. That's his mom. So I wound up, knowing his parents, wound up being good friends. They both passed, unfortunately, as well as his brothers and sisters, his family, his wife, everybody. We're all good friends. But that's only because it's a very Southside. This attitude is, hey, no matter how big we are, we all eat from the same cereal bowl kind of thing, And so he did have that. And so I asked him, I said, hey, you're the strongest man in the world. I said, you want to wrestle? He said, okay. I was like, okay. Wow. All right, here we go. This is another one of those moments, right? This guy squats over 1,000 pounds and benches almost 6, and I'm going to wrestle. I was like, another great idea, Mike. Another great idea. So we went into the basement of Quad's Gym, and there's nothing but carpets. And if anybody's ever been there knows it's legendary. And like people start coming down. So this junior Mr. America guy stops, a lot of Southside hustlers out there. So I don't know if he's charging people or whatever. So I'm going to tell you something. Eddie Cohen had no neck. Hard is to choke someone with no neck. Very difficult. But he was, Eddie, like you said, he was humble. He was nice. We wrestled. We did what we did. He was very nice. He didn't. You know how when you play with people, Dominic, everybody wants to show up with the resume, all right, and beat the shit out of you, and I'm gonna impress upon you how good I am. Well, he wasn't like that.
Well, neither are you. Neither are you.
Nah. So I only went as hard as he went, and of course I tapped him out pretty quick. And then we went slow, and we moved around. He was very humble, and then he started training with me. Now, fast forward 10 years. He takes me to a powerlifter. Now, Eddie's favorite thing is the knife. He loves the blade.
I've seen you train with him on that, yeah.
Yeah. And so we would go to this powerlifting meet somewhere. I forget where we're at. He takes me with him. And we got some mutual friends. And so he knows these guys, and so I'm always loving to meet the people he knows in this industry of powerlifting, bodybuilding, and all that stuff. I'm a martial arts guy. I like these guys. Over here, everybody talks shit about everybody. Over here, powerlifters are like, "Oh, he's a great guy. No, he's a great guy. No, you're a great guy." You're like, "Thanks, man." Everybody's super cool. And martial arts is like, "I'll beat you up." "No, I'll beat you up. My style's better than yours." Huh, wait till the master finds out. It's just a bunch of bullshit, man. This is, by the way, this is why I really, really enjoyed meeting and becoming friends with Lee Morrison. Dude, the most amazing human being ever. I mean, seriously, yeah. When he teaches, if he has he has a thing on his slideshow that says VanBeek seat for life, he'll give you credit for it. He doesn't change one thing and say it's mine, right? He just, no, I learned this from this. No, I learned this from this, and he is. That guy.
I saw you with Morrison. I was working a booth for a street vendor, like a event for Chicago for barbecue. A friend of mine had a booth there, so I'm helping out. And one of my old classmates under my second Sifu was there, and he was there with Lee Morrison. And you want to talk about a guy who's just like you. And this was 2015. And
you see Marty.
Marty. Yeah, it was Marty. It's exactly who it was. Marty's the nicest guy in the world as well, too. Comes with Lee, and Lee's just got this amazing energy, but he's a fucking killer, right? So I'm like, here's another guy, man. Lee was nice. We had 5-minute conversation. When Marty said, Dominick does Wing Chun, Lee didn't do the whole, brush off stuff that most people do. He acknowledged it. It's like, oh, that's great. That's, he was not belittling of what I did, because damn well anytime somebody says Wing Chun, you get the whole eye roll, all this shit. Lee didn't do that. No, you don't do that. So when I saw you with Lee Morrison and the two of you were exchanging equal ideas, I went, oh fuck, is this explosive? Lee's more they're the guys who train in urban combatives overseas. They're in the exact same caliber as you are. They really are. Yeah. And that was a phenomenal collaboration.
Michelle out of Amsterdam, he's real good. His lady Nina. Yeah, Lee's circle is really good. I think it reminds me of Vu and his original circle. Vu had that cult of personality, unfortunately, that wound up dooming him in terms of loyalty. Yeah. Where Lee has people with him forever, man. Just he has a good product, and it is it's a very, very good product. He's an incredibly capable individual, knowing what he knows. I introduced him to Eddie. We all went out for dinner. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I met Lee through Marty. I met Seals through Marty. Marty's an amazing network person. Anyway, so humility and staying humble, meeting Eddie, that's how we all did it. And Eddie wound up training me for 7 years. We wound up going to these powerlifting meets, and introduces me to people. You know who Stan Efferdine is?
Oh my God, yeah, Stan the Rhino.
Yes, right. Yep. Right. How do you not know? I have friends who paid like shit tons of money for his diets and all stuff. And we're sitting backstage, and Eddie's coaching some lifting events, right? So I'm just sitting backstage, meeting people, and everybody's super nice. And this guy walks up and he goes, "Hey, you're the guy who teaches Eddie all that knife shit, right? Thanks a lot. Every time I see him, he's always trying to cut me, blah, blah, blah." But he winds up sitting down, giving me all his diet, and then I'm with the guy is just writing everything down. And all of this, like, world-class lifting, training. I mean, he's a martial artist, and he's a performance athlete. I'm soaking all this stuff up, man. I mean, I got just a shit ton of free, just great knowledge, brother. And it's because you're in that circle with Eddie. You know what I mean? You're just in that circle of people who are world-class in their field, and they respect when you're world class in your field,
Yeah, I'm not gonna kiss your ass, but I'll tell you this too as well. I think it's different because you just, and it's energetic, right? You pick up. It's kind of like dogs know if a person is good or not. There's something about you. Again, I'm not kissing your ass. It just is what it is. It's your character. You give off a good energy where people are like, they shake your hand, they meet you, and like, this guy knows what he's doing. He's very capable, but there's not a bone of arrogance in his body. And I just think that's who you are. I think you do enough talking with your ability. If the job needs to get done, you get done. But you've never, in all the time I've known you, what really makes you stand out, even from me, you don't criticize, You don't shit on other people. And the weirdest thing about you is you teach violence, and you still uplift people. Most people teach martial arts as the path to uplift people. There's something different about the way that you do it, and I just think that speaks for your character, and that's why people gravitate towards you.
Thanks. It was difficult to sell. We have focus locations throughout the country, and it's for individuals, right? I don't want to have a big following. And then what's what I found? I found that when they were doing the focus brand, what I was asking them to do is essentially be me, and they can't do that, right? Mm-hmm. They have to be themselves. And so I let them do as they wanted to, but with focus came this thing that I made focus, and so it was hard to have other locations other than mine because my personality became my brand. I didn't mean for it to be that way. That's just how it happened. It
worked out great for everybody. Let's talk about focus for a second. Where can people follow, support, get involved? And if people, I want to talk about this too, if people are looking to travel or to wind up uprooting and training, what are your expectations for students? Because I think one thing that people don't do enough is they don't vet the students that are coming in. And I think maybe we produce a poor line of people. You, again, you're one of the people, you've got quality people. Your people are just their quality people. So what should a potential student expect? And then where can they wind up following you, working with you, and all that?
Well, obviously everybody has a website, focuscounterbalance.com, and it's the same on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, yada, 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 the three big hitters. I do a lot of, as a student, you could expect that if you train here, if you're going to train with focus, it is a counterviolence mindset. That is, do I do martial arts? Absolutely. But I use it insofar as it counters violence. The minute it stops countering violence, I have no use for it. So there's a lot of, whether it's forms or whether it's complicated knee rolls into a heel hook. No purpose, no need for that. It's not even allowed in the ballpark. So the expectation is that you are a reality-based martial artist and you learn the sport in so much as it's relevant to defending against 3 or 4 people. We have a lot of, like this weekend, we have a fight to weapon course, Dominic. And as you know from law enforcement, you're an open carry guy, but concealed carry, by the time you realize you need a weapon, you need it. You don't know you need it until you need it. And by that time, it's like, okay, we're going to start a fight. And you'll know when I hit you. Well, shit, can I know sooner? No, not really. Because you see, I'm violent. And violence takes to disorientate and surprise you and ambush you and do all those things so you have a less chance of self-defense, so I can get away with whatever I want to get away with. And so in those courses, we realized that just having a gun isn't the secret answer. I actually have to do something to get to that weapon and then fire it. And so we pick a draw. What kind of draw do you want to have? Just bring your holster. We have blue guns. And then you work the draw. Then we fight. And we'll pick stuff up, like I'll use some of Lee's stuff. Lee sends me courses. I send him stuff. We're in constant collaboration. And I'll take some of that stuff and I'll use it in my course, and we'll develop a skill set that says I can do this, and we can do it in 90 minutes. We do that with a variety of skill sets. Once a year, we have a retreat at a local farm here in Beecher, Illinois, just over the border from Indiana. We get together for the entire weekend. Last year was all weapons. We did stick, knife. We had a gun range. We had an obstacle course with some knife, some stick, and then finally finished off with a gun. We do wrestling stuff. We do jiu-jitsu stuff. We do mass attack stuff. So we have a lot of mini camps as well as ongoing courses and workshops. It's a fun place to be.
I have no doubt. I trained with you once, and it was a fantastic experience to where anytime I train with somebody above my caliber, right, in their craft, you, Light Burley, a few others, what people have always asked me is, does it make you want to ditch Wing Chun and go somewhere else? And I always said, no. Touching hands with you, we did a drill, you modified my drill, and it made me go, this is how I can make my Wing Chun work better. Light Burley did the same thing. Do you advocate for that? So meaning that if somebody is a diehard BJJ guy and they're like, man, I love it though, blah, blah, and you come along and you just, school them 7 ways from Sunday. I don't know how to ask this question, but how we keep hearing, got to empty your cup. And then let me say it like this. Yeah. So you're saying, hey, I don't want to leave my yard, but I want to play with different toys. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that scheme, I would say if you're a kicker, you're a Taekwondo guy, go do Pananjakman. Go do Savate. Don't go do low line kicking. Go find someone who does question mark kicks. So if you're going to take up kicking, then be the best kicker by going across the board and learning from as many kickers as you can. If I walked into a kicking school, I would say this. If I walked into a trapping school, I would do something that they do, but make it better. And here's how I would make it better. I want you to box, but I want you to cap that front hand so you don't get hit. Or I would say something of this nature. If we're doing a jiu-jitsu roll, I would say, how can we make your jiu-jitsu better? Bite him and pinch him. Bite him, pinch him, thumb his eyes, pull his hair. And work that into your flow. Every once in a while, thumb his eyes. That way you can take a little bit of the street with you everywhere you go. And it'll heighten your game for both sport and reality and all the things. And so there is a place to be where you can say, I'm going to do Wing Chun, but I'm gonna really make sure I work some boxing and really tie that in. And so that you really wouldn't even know it. The seam would be you wouldn't even notice the seam. Boxing to trapping, back to uppercut, elbow, then trap and grab the hand or something, right? So I would really take that art of Wing Chun that you have with that center line principle and just draw my hands back here and create that obstruction through proper striking, right? Don't assume there's an obstruction. Hit that dude, he'll put his hands up. There you go. There's your obstruction. Don't wait for it. Make it happen by being a good boxer. You hit a guy who put his hands up. There's your trap.
Let's talk about Mike VanBeek in this stage, right? You're fucking early 50s. You're still fucking built. It's ridiculous. But you're, it's like I'm 49 and things hurt, right? And so I will say that my mindset feels it's slowed down to get more information, but I still feel dangerous and I still feel more selective about the aggression and violence I want to put out. How is Mike VanBeek now in his early 50s? What's the mindset compared to Mike VanBeek of his 20s and 30s? How have you evolved?
That's a good question. I remember thinking when I used to go train with Paul, I was like, man, I'm training here. I wanted to put hands on with you. I want you to go with me for these 5 hours I'm here. And now as I get older, I get why he had someone else come in, because it's so exhausting. It's exhausting. So if somebody says, hey, I'm going to go train for an hour with VanBeek, and then, okay, cool. And man, we were there, we got a good workout. Woo. We rolled, we did trapping, we did energy drills, we boxed for a little while, we did some weapons. Man, it was great. Yeah, we were both sweating. But I got to do that 3 more times this afternoon and come back tonight for classes. And so while somebody has saved their energy to get the best performance and a great workout that I can give them, I still have to duplicate that. And being well into my 50s, brother, I was born in 1970, and this old model, I've kept on top of it, and I've changed the oil, brother, and I've done all the things to it to keep it in shape. I took 10 years out and was a crackhead. So the fact that I'm even still alive, but I have worked a lot. I put a lot of work in. The dailies at the gym, every day, the diet, this, I have some minor addictions, a coffee, a caffeine thing here and there. I have a sweet tooth. But for the most part, I stay on top of my game. And even at top of my game, my BMI, my lifts, I don't go for numbers. Like, I don't lift. How much can you lift? I have no idea. Mm-hmm. I am a performance athlete. So if I start getting up, or I'm too strong, I know my bones and my ligaments and stuff, it won't handle that. I need to be able to move, dance, rock climb, right? All the things. I want my body to be multifunctional. I just don't want to be a one-dimensional. I'm a bodybuilder, a powerlifter, a martial arts guy. I mean, we've been doing this get in shape thing before MMA. Mm-hmm. Right? Because, there's a place in martial arts, Dominic, I'm sure you're aware of this. You've seen people that offer them a comfortable place to be out of shape.
100%. And I fall guilty to that.
100%.
I fall guilty to that. Yes. It's the false sense of, well, just because my hands are lightning fast and all this shit. No, it doesn't. I tell people all the time who want to kick my ass, I'm like, you know how you beat me? You go 5 seconds. I will guarantee you after 5 seconds, I'll be winded because I'm so out of shape. So you're 100%, dude. You and I had this conversation 3-4 years ago. You were talking about how that it has to become, like, the fitness has to become a discipline, because without the fitness, it doesn't matter. Your martial arts are garbage. It's just
not. And you can't be a JKD and argue that guy. Look at Bruce Lee. That's all he focused on was his physical prowess, his ability, his diet, his lifting, his everything. And he, he looked at weightlifting and he used it for what it was worth. But I think most of the time it was body management stuff. And he did lift the little weights, but I mean, you have to curl.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do something. And so I think he incorporated a large part of because he knew how important this temple he called was a thing. And there's certain arts or certain alleyways. And listen, if somebody has a certain injury, man, or you have MS, or you have a thing, man. I have brothers out there. I have a brother named Keith Hay. He's in the combative community, but I still consider him a brother because he's a man with a great fucking heart. All he wants to do is help people. He does charity work, and the guy has some kind of MS, I think. I don't mean to tell his story, but so would I expect something from him that I wouldn't? Of course not. But he's being referenced on his own capabilities and abilities. So I'm not saying everybody needs to be some alpha athlete quarterback. No. But I need you to push yourself to the level that you're uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable physically or you're no growth. There's nothing happening here. When you lift, it's not easy. And so it is, my body is taking a beating to keep to the level that I expect everybody else to while I continue to do it. And some people will say, well, it's easy for you because you do it. It's just as hard because my body is starting to tax. Father Time, He's undefeated. He's undefeated, baby. He's undefeated. And he'll remember my name for sure, but he's undefeated. And I'm taking some shots from him these days, brother. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, I'm very curious to see where you're going to be in another 10 years from now because it's fantastic.
Dude, the minute I get up around, there's going to be noises.
Oh, I know those. Yeah. The bones creak and then the oohs and the ahs and then holy cow, I can't believe I pulled something I didn't know I had. But you don't slow and you're in phenomenal shape for a guy who's 5 years older than me, so I got to catch up. Again, it is focuscounterviolence.com is the website, and you could check out all the social media as well too. You've been a difference in the martial art. You're not in the martial arts game. You're in the fight game, the fight and violence game. And
I like to say it that way too, Dominic. I do martial arts, but I want you to think of it differently. Some girls say, does my daughter really need to learn martial arts? I said, not only does she need to learn how to martial arts, she needs to know how to fight. Teach your daughter how to fight. Because the word fight just says that there's some mental toughness. There is some determination and some grit, some integrity. That I'm going to go for what I'm uncertain of. I'm going to go into deep water, go into a place that I'm uncertain, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's when you say, I'm going to teach you how to fight. You're not saying you're learning that you can fight through struggles, whether it's on the mat or whether it's in life. And I think that word fight, while it has a lot of negative connotations, it's synonymous for the implication of an overcomer.
And you're one of the
fight through it.
Yep, you're one of the top instructors out there on the fight and violence game. Guys, make sure you check out Mike VanBeek's content. Make sure you support him. Check out his Instagram, social media, everything out there. And if you're in the area, I 100% endorse training with him. He's somebody that I hold very high regard and take very, very, very seriously. Mike, thank you so much for your time, man. This was great. We'll do this again.
Appreciate it, Dominic. Take care. Thanks for the time.
See you guys in the next episode of Them's Fighting Words. Comment below, subscribe, let us know what you want to see next, and let us know what you thought about this episode. We'll see you guys in the next video.